Dorian was a man in his early 60s with a gentle smile and eyes that held decades of quiet wisdom. He had spent most of his life working as a librarian, surrounded by books and stories, quietly helping others find the knowledge they needed. But one afternoon, something unexpected happened that changed everything. While climbing a short flight of stairs at home, Dorian suddenly felt a tightness in his chest, like an invisible hand was pressing down hard. It wasn't sharp pain, just an uncomfortable pressure that made him stop and catch his breath. At first, he brushed it off as just fatigue or stress, yet deep inside, he knew something was wrong. That visit to the doctor confirmed his worries. The doctor's words were gentle but serious. "Dorian, your arteries are showing signs of blockage. It's something we need to act on quickly." Hearing this was like a quiet alarm going off inside him. He wasn't the type to panic, but the thought of his heart struggling to pump blood properly unsettled him deeply. It wasn't just about numbers or test results. It was about his life, his family, and the many more years he still wanted to live fully. From that day, Dorian's world shifted. He started paying close attention to the little signals his body had been sending him for years. The unusual tiredness that would come even after a full night's sleep, the shortness of breath when walking his dog, and the strange cramps that sometimes tugged at his legs during a simple stroll. These weren't just random annoyances anymore. They were messages he could no longer ignore. It was a journey of understanding, patience, and change. Dorian knew that to protect his heart, he needed to reshape his habits, but more importantly, his mindset. He began by rethinking his diet, not as a punishment, but as a gift to himself. He swapped heavy meals for colorful plates filled with fresh vegetables, whole grains, and heart-friendly fats. The kitchen became his new sanctuary, a place where nourishment and hope mixed with the aroma of herbs and spices. Exercise, once sporadic, turned into gentle, daily walks and simple stretches that made him feel more alive and connected to his body. But the biggest transformation wasn't just physical, it was in how he embraced this new chapter with calm determination, letting go of fear and replacing it with a quiet confidence that every small step mattered. Dorian's story is one many of us can relate to. The slow, almost invisible warning signs that our bodies give us, often missed or ignored until they become urgent. It reminds us that health isn't just about avoiding illness, but about listening deeply to ourselves and acting before it's too late. As we walk alongside Dorian's journey today, we'll explore these subtle signs of artery blockages, what they feel like, and why they matter so much. Together, we'll uncover how paying attention early can open the door to a longer, fuller life, one where the heart beats steady and the spirit remains strong. Dorian never thought much about his breath before. For most of his life, taking a deep breath was as natural as the morning sun rising over the quiet streets of his neighborhood. But recently, that simple act had begun to feel different, harder, heavier. It started subtly, like a shadow at the edge of his awareness. He'd be walking slowly to the mailbox or climbing the stairs to his bedroom, and suddenly his chest would tighten. His breaths came quicker, shallower, and a wave of tiredness would wash over him. At first, he shrugged it off as just part of getting older. After all, 62 wasn't ancient, but it was an age when the body sometimes whispered its limits. One evening, as Dorian sat reading a book by the fireplace, the feeling hit him stronger than before. He stood up to fetch a glass of water and found himself clutching the edge of the table, gasping quietly. His wife, Elaine, noticed immediately. "Dorian, are you all right?" she asked, concern creasing her forehead. He nodded, trying to catch his breath, but the discomfort lingered longer than it should have. That night, sleep was restless. He had to prop himself up on extra pillows just to breathe easier. The next day, Dorian decided to visit his doctor, a kind woman who had cared for him over the years. After some tests, she explained gently, "Dorian, these breathless moments may be your body's early signals. When arteries become narrowed by plaque buildup, your heart struggles to get enough oxygen to your lungs and muscles. This is why you're feeling short of breath, even with light activity." The words settled in his mind like an unfamiliar chill. It wasn't a diagnosis yet, but it was a warning, a wake-up call to listen closer to the quiet language of his body. What struck Dorian most was how this invisible struggle was happening every day, quietly and without fanfare. His heart, which had pumped tirelessly for 6 decades, was now fighting a hidden battle. The doctor advised small but important changes, more movement, reducing stress, and most importantly, adjusting his diet to support better blood flow. Dorian left the clinic feeling a mix of worry and resolve. He knew ignoring these signs wasn't an option anymore. Back home, Elaine became his steady companion on this new path. Together, they planned gentle walks around the neighborhood park, starting with just 10 minutes and slowly increasing as Dorian's strength returned. These walks were more than exercise. They were moments of connection, filled with fresh air, quiet conversations, and hopeful smiles. Dorian noticed that even small efforts brought relief. A little less tightness, a little more ease in breathing. It was a fragile victory, but a victory nonetheless. At the dinner table, changes were quietly taking root. Elaine began preparing meals rich in leafy greens, colorful vegetables, and foods high in potassium, like sweet potatoes and bananas, known to help relax blood vessels and improve circulation. Dorian learned that potassium plays a vital role in maintaining a healthy heartbeat and lowering blood pressure, essential for anyone dealing with narrowing arteries. These meals were different from his usual hearty fare, but surprisingly satisfying. The bright flavors and the thought behind each dish gave him comfort beyond nutrition. Nights still brought occasional challenges. Sometimes Dorian woke feeling breathless, the sensation pressing on his chest, a silent reminder that the battle was ongoing. But he no longer met these moments with fear or denial. Instead, he breathed deeply, slowly, grounding himself with patience. He reminded himself that this journey was not a sprint, but a steady walk, a process of healing and care. Through these early days of change, Dorian's mindset began to shift. The breathless moments that once scared him became signals to honor his body's needs rather than ignore them. He started journaling his experiences, noting patterns in his energy, his moods, and the small victories. This act of reflection turned the abstract fear into something tangible, manageable. His family noticed the difference too. Elaine's gentle encouragement and the occasional check-in from his daughter, who lived a few towns away, created a support net around him. One evening, his daughter called, sensing his worries. "Dad, it's okay to take your time. You're doing the right thing by listening to your body," she said softly. Her words lifted a weight he hadn't fully acknowledged, the loneliness that can come with health struggles. Dorian realized that this journey wasn't just physical, it was deeply emotional. Accepting vulnerability, embracing change, and finding strength in small steps were as important as any medication or doctor's advice. The breath that once felt like a stranger was slowly becoming a familiar friend again, each inhale a quiet promise of life and resilience. As the days passed, the tightness in his chest eased and the walks grew longer. But Dorian knew this was just the beginning. The silent warnings his body sent were part of a bigger story, one of awakening, care, and hope. And with every steady breath, he was learning to listen more closely than ever before. The morning sun spilled softly through the kitchen window as Dorian prepared his breakfast. It was a quiet day, but in the back of his mind, a new unease lingered. Over the past few weeks, a strange sensation had started creeping into his chest, not quite pain, but a persistent tightness, as if a gentle weight pressed upon his heart. Sometimes it came and went during simple chores, other times it surprised him during moments of rest. He knew now to pay attention, but the feeling still caught him off guard. One afternoon, while helping Elaine carry groceries inside, the tightness returned stronger. His breathing became shallow, and a subtle numbness spread down his left arm. "Elaine," he murmured, voice tinged with worry. She steadied him immediately, calm but alert. Dorian felt a swirl of emotions, fear, confusion, and a deep need to understand what his body was trying to say. That evening, he shared his experience with Dr. Lewis over a phone call. The doctor's voice was steady, reassuring. "Dorian, this discomfort you're describing is often linked to a condition called angina. It happens when your heart muscle isn't getting enough oxygen-rich blood due to narrowed arteries. It's your heart's way of warning you that something needs attention." Hearing these words was a mixture of relief and apprehension. At least now he had a name for the feeling that had unsettled him. The doctor's advice was clear. Dorian needed to take steps to reduce the plaque buildup in his arteries and improve his heart's oxygen supply. But more than that, he emphasized the importance of balance, not just physically, but emotionally. "Stress can make angina worse," Dr. Lewis said gently. "So finding calm is as important as diet and exercise." This conversation sparked a turning point. Dorian realized that managing his heart health meant more than just reacting to symptoms. It meant embracing a lifestyle that supported his body and mind holistically. He began exploring mindfulness practices, simple breathing exercises, quiet moments in his garden, and gentle stretches at dawn. These became rituals that soothed his anxious thoughts and helped ease the tightness that sometimes gripped his chest. Meanwhile, Elaine introduced new elements into their meals. She carefully selected foods rich in omega-3 fatty acids, like salmon and walnuts, that doctors recommended for heart health. These fats help reduce inflammation in arteries, making it easier for blood to flow freely. Dorian noticed that as their plates grew more colorful with fresh fish, nuts, and vibrant greens, his energy subtly improved. The meals weren't just nourishing, they became acts of love and healing. One afternoon, Dorian sat by the window, reflecting on how different his days felt now. The chest discomfort, though still present occasionally, no longer ruled his life with fear. He was learning to respond with awareness instead of avoidance. He acknowledged that this quiet pressure was a messenger, urging him to slow down and care for himself more deeply. His family played a crucial role in this transformation. Elaine's steady support, the warm check-ins from his daughter, and even the friendly neighbors' invitations for short walks created a circle of care that buoyed his spirits. During one visit, his grandson handed him a small book about heart-healthy recipes. "Grandpa, maybe we can cook something new together?" the boy said with a hopeful smile. Moments like these filled Dorian with gratitude and motivation. He also discovered the power of knowledge, not the overwhelming flood of medical jargon, but simple truths that helped him feel empowered. For instance, he learned that the omega-3s in their new diet didn't just protect the heart, but also helped reduce the risk of blood clots. This made him feel like he was actively fighting back against the danger lurking silently inside. Dorian's journey through these early warnings wasn't easy. There were days when frustration crept in, when the discomfort felt like a shadow he couldn't shake. Yet, with every mindful breath, every nourishing meal, and every step taken slowly around the park, he built resilience, not just in his heart, but in his spirit. The tightness in his chest became less of an enemy and more of a teacher. It taught him patience, self-compassion, and the profound importance of listening, not just to doctors, but to his own body's subtle signals. Dorian knew that this was a lifelong journey, one that required steady care and the gentle support of those who loved him. As evening fell, he sat with Elaine, their hands entwined, watching the sky turn soft shades of pink and gold. The path ahead was still uncertain, but for the first time in a long while, Dorian felt a quiet hope, a hope that with attention, love, and small daily choices, his heart could find strength again. Dorian had always enjoyed his daily walks, finding comfort in the rhythm of his footsteps and the gentle breeze against his face. But recently, a new sensation had started to trouble him, an ache that settled deep in his calves and thighs. At first, it was barely noticeable, a slight discomfort after walking a bit farther than usual. But over time, the ache grew more persistent, sometimes turning into sharp cramps that forced him to pause and rest. It puzzled him because these pains vanished when he stopped moving, only to return once he started again. One afternoon, as he shared this concern with Elaine, she grew quietly worried. "It sounds like your legs are struggling, Dorian," she said softly. "Maybe it's time to talk to Dr. Lewis about it." The next day, Dorian did just that. Over the phone, Dr. Lewis explained that these symptoms could be signs of peripheral artery disease, a condition where plaque narrows the arteries in the legs, reducing blood flow. This lack of oxygen-rich blood causes the muscles to cramp and ache during movement, a frustrating but important warning. Hearing this made Dorian pause. He had understood the dangers for his heart, but now his legs were sending their own signals. It felt as if his body was speaking in whispers through discomfort, urging him to slow down and care more deeply. The doctor advised gentle exercise tailored to improve circulation and recommended foods rich in antioxidants and nitrates like beets and leafy greens, which help widen blood vessels and boost blood flow. Back home, Dorian began to notice how much the little things mattered. Elaine cooked meals with vibrant beet salads, tossing them with fresh spinach and walnuts. The earthy sweetness of the beets became a favorite, a symbol of the new habits taking root. Dorian learned that nitrates found in these foods convert in the body to nitric oxide, a molecule that relaxes blood vessels and improves circulation, something vital for his aching legs. He also adapted his daily walks. Instead of pushing himself to cover long distances, he chose intervals of slow walking followed by rest, paying close attention to his body's signals. These pauses were not signs of weakness, but acts of respect for his limits. During these moments, he'd sit on a bench, feeling the sun warm his skin and the gentle pulse of life in his limbs. These breaks brought reflection and a deepening connection to his own resilience. As the weeks passed, Dorian's legs felt less heavy and the cramps became less frequent. But the transformation went beyond physical relief. The ache had opened his eyes to the interconnectedness of his body and the importance of patience. It taught him that healing is not always a dramatic event, but a series of small, intentional choices made every day. His family noticed the change too. During a Sunday lunch, his daughter commented on how much more energetic he seemed. "You look like you're enjoying life again, Dad," she said warmly. Elaine smiled, proud of the quiet strength growing within him. They all understood that Dorian's journey was about more than managing symptoms. It was about reclaiming a quality of life. One evening, Dorian sat by the window, watching the fading light and feeling a calm sense of accomplishment. The aches in his legs had once threatened to hold him back, but now they had become a compass guiding him toward better health. The foods he ate, the walks he took, and the moments of rest all wove together into a new rhythm, one that honored his body's needs and embraced change. Through this experience, Dorian learned a valuable truth. The body often whispers before it shouts. Those subtle aches and pains are not just inconveniences, but important messages calling for attention. Listening to these signals with kindness and action can turn the tide, making space for healing and hope. As night settled softly around the house, Dorian felt grateful. Grateful for the quiet lessons of his legs, the loving support of his family, and the growing strength in his heart. The path ahead was still unfolding, but with every careful step, he moved closer to a life where his body and spirit moved in harmony once again. For years, Dorian had considered himself a man with steady energy, a gentle rhythm to his days that balanced work, family, and quiet moments of rest. But lately, something had shifted beneath the surface. No matter how much sleep he got or how carefully he paced himself, an unshakable exhaustion settled into his bones. It was a heavy kind of tiredness, not the pleasant fatigue of hard work, but a deep, lingering weariness that dulled his spirit and clouded his mind. One afternoon, after trying to complete simple household chores, Dorian found himself sitting down halfway through, overwhelmed by a wave of weakness. Elaine noticed immediately. "You don't seem like yourself," she said softly, taking his hand. Dorian sighed, a mixture of frustration and resignation in his eyes. "I'm just so tired all the time. It feels like my body is running on empty, even when I've done nothing." That evening, during his next appointment, Dr. Lewis listened carefully as Dorian described the fatigue. "What you're experiencing is common among people with restricted blood flow," she explained gently. "When arteries narrow, your muscles, brain, and organs don't get enough oxygen and nutrients. Your body tries to compensate by redirecting blood to vital organs, which can leave you feeling weak and drained. It's not just tiredness, it's a signal that your circulation needs help." Understanding this helped Dorian see his exhaustion in a new light. It wasn't just the natural toll of age or stress, it was his body's urgent call for care. This awareness sparked a slow, steady change in how he treated himself. He began prioritizing rest without guilt, allowing himself to pause when needed. He also focused on nourishing foods rich in iron and B vitamins, which support energy production in the body. Dark leafy greens, beans, and lean meats found their way onto his plate with new purpose. Alongside these changes, Dorian discovered the power of pacing, not rushing through the day, but moving with intention and gentleness. He broke tasks into smaller steps, celebrated small wins, and accepted that some days would be easier than others. This shift wasn't easy for a man who prided himself on independence, but it became a source of strength rather than weakness. At home, Elaine's care became a balm for both body and soul. She encouraged quiet evenings with soft music and warm tea, creating spaces where Dorian could recharge. Their conversations deepened, moving beyond surface topics to honest sharing about fears, hopes, and the journey ahead. These moments built a foundation of emotional support that strengthened Dorian's resolve. One afternoon, during a walk through the garden, Dorian paused to breathe deeply, feeling the sun on his face and the earth beneath his feet. The fatigue was still there, but it no longer felt like a cage. It was part of a larger story, one of learning patience, kindness, and the delicate balance between pushing forward and resting well. He also found comfort in small rituals, morning stretches that awakened his body, gratitude journaling that lifted his spirits, and moments of mindfulness that quieted the racing thoughts. These practices grounded him, reminding him that healing was as much about the heart and mind as it was about the body. His family saw the changes too. His daughter remarked on how he seemed calmer, more present, despite the tiredness. Elaine smiled quietly, knowing that beneath the exhaustion, a quiet courage was growing. Dorian was learning that strength wasn't the absence of struggle, but the willingness to face it with grace. That night, as Dorian settled into bed, he reflected on the weight he carried. It was heavy, yes, but no longer crushing. With each new day, he was discovering how to carry it differently, with gentleness and hope. The fatigue that once drained him was now a teacher, guiding him toward deeper self-awareness and compassion. In this chapter of his journey, Dorian embraced the truth that healing is never linear. There would be ups and downs, moments of clarity, and times of doubt. But with each breath, each mindful step, he moved closer to a life where exhaustion no longer defined him, where energy could return, slowly but surely, and the heart could beat steady once again. Dorian had never paid much attention to the rhythm of his heartbeat. It was always there, steady and reliable, like a silent metronome marking the passage of time. But recently, that rhythm had begun to falter in ways that unsettled him deeply. At times, he would feel his heart fluttering wildly, racing as if it were trying to catch up with something unseen. Other moments brought brief pauses, palpitations that felt like skips, sudden jolts that left him breathless and uneasy. One quiet evening, while reading a letter from his daughter, the sensation returned with intensity. His chest tightened, and a wave of dizziness washed over him. Elaine rushed to his side, her voice calm but concerned. "Dorian, are you okay?" He nodded weakly, though inside a swirl of fear threatened to rise. The unpredictability of these episodes made him feel vulnerable, as if his own body had become a stranger. During his next visit, Dr. Lewis explained gently that these irregular heartbeats, or arrhythmias, were often linked to the strain caused by narrowed arteries. When your heart struggles to get enough oxygen, it can respond by beating faster or irregularly, she said. These palpitations can trigger anxiety, creating a cycle that can feel overwhelming. The doctor emphasized that while occasional palpitations might be harmless, frequent episodes deserved careful monitoring. Dorian found himself caught in a new dance between awareness and fear. The fluttering in his chest was a constant reminder that his heart was vulnerable, yet it also motivated him to deepen his commitment to care. Elaine encouraged him to explore gentle breathing exercises and meditation, tools to calm both body and mind. At first, these practices felt foreign, but gradually, they became anchors in turbulent moments. He also learned to recognize triggers. Caffeine, stress, and dehydration often worsened his palpitations. This awareness led to practical changes, reducing coffee, staying hydrated, and carving out quiet time each day to unwind. Meals rich in magnesium, like spinach and almonds, were added to his diet, helping to relax his muscles and support a steady heartbeat. The emotional impact was as profound as the physical. Dorian shared his fears openly with Elaine and his daughter, breaking the silence that often surrounds heart troubles. Their support became a source of strength, reminding him that vulnerability could be met with compassion. During a family dinner, his daughter gently said, "It's okay to lean on us, Dad. You don't have to carry this alone." This openness transformed Dorian's journey. The palpitations, once a source of dread, became signals inviting care and connection. He embraced the idea that healing was not just about managing symptoms, but nurturing the whole person, body, mind, and heart. One afternoon, sitting in his favorite chair, Dorian reflected on how far he had come. The uneasy rhythm of his heart no longer controlled him. Instead, it taught him patience and mindfulness. Each flutter was met with a deep breath, a moment of stillness, and a reminder that he was alive and fighting. As evening shadows lengthened, Dorian felt a quiet hope growing within. The path ahead might still hold challenges, but with each heartbeat, steady or fluttering, he was learning to listen, respond, and live with courage. In the quiet moments before dawn, Dorian often found himself staring out the window, watching the world slowly awaken. His journey through silent warnings had brought him to a place of deep reflection and renewed commitment. But recently, new signs had begun to surface, subtle changes that spoke not just of his heart, but of his entire body's struggle to heal. One morning, he noticed swelling in his ankles and feet, a heaviness that was unlike anything before. It felt tight, almost tender, and when he pressed gently on the skin, a small indentation remained. This was unfamiliar territory. Concerned, he mentioned it to Elaine, who urged him to share the symptoms with Dr. Lewis. The swelling, the doctor explained, was a sign that the heart's ability to pump effectively was being challenged, causing fluid to accumulate in the lower body. It was a reminder that his journey required vigilance and care. Alongside the swelling, Dorian became aware of changes in his skin, areas that felt cold to the touch, pale patches on his fingers and toes. The simple act of holding a warm cup of tea brought unexpected relief. Dr. Lewis explained that these were signs of poor circulation, where narrowed arteries limited blood flow to the extremities. These symptoms were gentle but urgent messages from his body, guiding him to continue his path with renewed focus. Dorian also kept a close eye on his blood pressure, which had risen steadily despite his efforts. High blood pressure, the doctor reminded him, was a silent force that strained the heart and arteries further. This knowledge spurred Dorian to embrace even more mindful living, reducing salt, managing stress, and committing to regular checkups. Each step was a piece of a larger puzzle, a mosaic of health that he was carefully assembling. Despite these challenges, Dorian's spirit remained unbroken. He found solace in the small victories, longer walks with less discomfort, meals shared with family that nourished both body and soul, quiet moments of gratitude for each steady breath. The swelling and skin changes were not signs of defeat, but calls to deepen his care and compassion for himself. Elaine's unwavering presence was a balm through it all. Their evenings were filled with soft conversations, gentle music, and plans for days filled with hope. Their bond, strengthened by shared struggles, became a testament to the power of love in healing. Even the neighborhood friends noticed a new light in Dorian's eyes, a quiet resilience born from facing fears head-on. Reflecting on his journey, Dorian realized that the silent signs his body had sent were gifts, opportunities to listen, to act, and to transform. He had moved from denial and fear to awareness and acceptance, building a foundation for a life defined not by illness but by intentional care. The journey was ongoing, filled with uncertainties, but also with promise. As he prepared for bed one night, Dorian felt a profound gratitude for the warnings that had saved him, for the family that had supported him, and for the wisdom gained through listening deeply to his own body. With a calm heart and steady breath, he closed his eyes, ready to greet each new day with hope and strength. Dorian had traveled a long road since those first breathless moments. Each symptom, each uneasy heartbeat, each ache in his legs had shaped a story not just of illness but of awakening. Yet beyond the physical changes, the most profound shift was happening within his mind. Where fear once took root, a new sense of empowerment was beginning to grow. It wasn't easy. The uncertainty that accompanies chronic health challenges can be overwhelming. Dorian often found himself wrestling with worries about the future, the what-ifs and maybes that threatened to cloud his thoughts. But with time and gentle guidance from Dr. Lewis and the loving support of Elaine and his family, he learned to replace fear with curiosity and hope. This change started small. Instead of dreading symptoms, Dorian began to see them as messages, important clues that helped him understand his body better. He learned that listening carefully without judgment allowed him to respond with kindness rather than anxiety. Meditation and mindful breathing became daily rituals that helped calm the mind's restless chatter. With this calmer mindset, Dorian embraced healthier habits more fully. He welcomed the colorful meals Elaine prepared, savoring every bite as a celebration of life and vitality. He continued his gentle walks, feeling the earth beneath his feet and the wind on his face, not as chores, but as gifts. Exercise wasn't punishment, it was nourishment for his body and spirit. Dorian also found joy in learning. He read books about heart health, watched videos that explained the science behind his symptoms in simple terms, and joined a local support group for people facing similar challenges. Sharing stories and hearing others' journeys helped him feel less alone and more connected to a community of strength. The family played an essential role in this mental transformation. Their encouragement and patience created a safe space for Dorian to express doubts and celebrate progress. Elaine's quiet confidence and his daughter's frequent calls reminded him that he was not defined by his condition, but by his courage to face it. Perhaps most importantly, Dorian began to forgive himself. He let go of guilt over days when fatigue kept him resting longer or when palpitations made him pause. Self-compassion became a cornerstone of his healing, a reminder that being human means embracing imperfections and moving forward regardless. As weeks turned into months, Dorian noticed a growing peace within. His heart still had its challenges, but the anxiety that once shadowed each beat was fading. Instead, a quiet strength had taken root, a trust in his ability to navigate whatever came next. One evening, as he sat with Elaine watching the sunset paint the sky in warm hues, Dorian reflected on his journey. He realized that the true transformation wasn't just physical healing, but the shift from fear to empowerment, a gift that would sustain him long after symptoms faded. With steady breath and hopeful heart, Dorian was ready to face each day not as a patient defined by illness, but as a man embracing life with wisdom, courage, and grace. Throughout his journey, Dorian came to understand that healing was never a solitary path. The silent warnings of his body had brought challenges, yes, but they also opened doors to deeper connections with those he loved most. His family became more than just companions, they were pillars of strength, comfort, and encouragement. Elaine, with her unwavering patience and gentle care, stood beside him every step of the way. She became not only his caregiver, but his partner in embracing a new lifestyle. Their quiet mornings filled with shared cups of herbal tea and soft conversations became moments of renewal. Elaine's attentiveness to Dorian's needs, knowing when to encourage and when to simply listen, made all the difference. Her presence reminded him daily that he was never alone in this fight. Their daughter's frequent calls, full of warmth and concern, added another layer of support. She shared articles, recipes, and words of encouragement, bridging the distance with love and knowledge. On visits home, she joined Dorian on his gentle walks, turning them into cherished family rituals. These shared experiences rekindled joy and fostered hope, making the journey less daunting. Dorian also found solace in opening up about his struggles, breaking down the walls of pride and silence. Conversations that once felt difficult became sources of relief and understanding. He realized that vulnerability was not weakness, but a bridge that drew his family closer. Their empathy and shared resolve transformed moments of fear into collective strength. One evening, as they gathered around the dinner table, laughter filled the room, a reminder of life's simple pleasures amid health challenges. These moments underscored the importance of connection and healing, nurturing not just the body, but the heart. This network of support gave Dorian courage to face setbacks without despair. When symptoms flared or fatigue weighed heavy, knowing he had a loving circle lifted his spirits and renewed his determination. Family became his anchor, a safe harbor in the stormy seas of illness. Through this, Dorian understood that health is woven with relationships. The care and compassion exchanged between loved ones are as vital as any treatment or lifestyle change. Together, they forged a path of resilience, hope, and shared healing. As Dorian's journey unfolded, he came to appreciate that true healing was a marathon, not a sprint. The early warnings his body had sent were invitations to slow down, listen deeply, and commit to lasting change. This understanding shaped how he approached his daily routine, turning small actions into powerful habits. Each morning began with a moment of mindfulness, a quiet pause to center himself before the day's demands. This simple practice helped calm his mind and set a tone of patience and kindness toward his body. He found that these moments of stillness made it easier to face challenges with grace rather than frustration. Dorian's diet evolved into a celebration of vibrant, nourishing foods. Fresh vegetables, whole grains, lean proteins, and heart-healthy fats filled his plate, chosen not out of obligation but with gratitude. He enjoyed experimenting with new recipes, savoring the flavors and the knowledge that each bite supported his healing. Physical activity became a gentle rhythm woven into his days. Instead of pushing himself, Dorian embraced movement that felt joyful. A slow walk in the park, stretches by the window, and light yoga that connected breath and body. These moments nurtured his muscles and circulation without strain. He learned to honor rest as a vital part of health. On days when fatigue pressed heavily, he allowed himself permission to pause, understanding that recovery was as important as effort. This balance was a new lesson, one that required ongoing patience. Tracking his progress in a journal became a source of motivation and insight. Recording his feelings, symptoms, and small victories helped Dorian see patterns and celebrate growth. It was a reminder that healing is not linear but full of ebbs and flows. Throughout, Dorian's mindset shifted from fear to empowerment. He recognized that setbacks were natural and did not signify failure. Instead, they were opportunities to adjust, learn, and strengthen resolve. This perspective brought resilience and hope. His family's encouragement continued to be a vital support, reminding him that he was not alone. Together, they celebrated milestones and faced challenges with shared determination. Dorian's journey showed him that lasting health comes from consistent, compassionate care for body, mind, and spirit. With patience and persistence, he was building a foundation for a fuller, richer life ahead. As the seasons changed, so did Dorian's outlook on life. What had begun as a series of frightening symptoms and uncertain diagnoses had transformed into a journey of self-discovery, resilience, and hope. His heart, once fragile and burdened, now beat with a quiet strength born from courage and care. Dorian understood that his body would always carry memories of its struggles: the breathlessness, the chest discomfort, the aching legs, the fatigue, and the palpitations. But these were no longer sources of fear. They were reminders of how far he had come and the vigilance needed to maintain his health. He embraced each day with gratitude, aware that healing was ongoing and that every choice mattered. Morning walks with Elaine became celebrations of life's simple joys. Meals were moments of nurturing, and quiet evenings offered reflection and peace. The support of his family remained his anchor. Their love and presence wove a safety net that buoyed his spirit during moments of doubt. Sharing his journey openly had strengthened their bonds and brought deeper meaning to their time together. Dorian also found purpose in sharing his story beyond his home, connecting with others facing similar challenges, offering hope through vulnerability, and inspiring change through example. He knew that while each path is unique, the power of community and shared experience could light the way for many. In the quiet moments when he listened to his heartbeat, Dorian felt a profound connection to life itself. The heart's rhythm was no longer a source of worry, but a song of resilience and hope, a reminder that even in the face of uncertainty, strength can be found within. His journey was not defined by symptoms, but by the spirit with which he faced them. It was a testament to the human capacity for adaptation, love, and renewal. As night fell softly around his home, Dorian rested with a peaceful heart, ready to greet tomorrow with unwavering hope and steadfast strength. Dorian's journey reminds us that true transformation often begins with listening, really listening, to the quiet signals our bodies send. From those first breathless moments that could no longer be ignored, to learning how to honor his limits and embrace new habits, Dorian shifted from fear to empowerment. He discovered that small, consistent changes in diet, movement, and mindset could bring remarkable strength back to his heart and spirit. As we reflect on his story, it's clear that awareness and patience are powerful tools. If you notice signs like unexplained fatigue, chest discomfort, or leg pain, don't wait or dismiss them. Taking action early, whether through gentle exercise, nourishing foods, or mindful rest, can make all the difference in protecting your heart and overall health. Remember, healing is not about perfection, but persistence. Each step you take toward caring for yourself is a victory worth celebrating. Let Dorian's experience inspire you to pay attention to your body's whispers and to choose kindness and hope in every decision. Your heart's strength comes not just from the beats within, but from the care you give yourself each day. With patience and love, a healthier, fuller life is always within reach.